Hello, this is the question and answer part of Cynthia Brannvall's wonderful presentation. Just a little, please put your questions in the chat or raise your hands by pressing the reaction button, hand. And then we will call on people. Cynthia, call on people if you see them. And if I spot somebody who got missed, I'll let you know.
Okay, great. I see and Andre.
Yes.
Yes. Hi.
Hi. First, I want to thank you. It was a fabulous presentation. I certainly hope all of our students get to see it because it's so rich and a part of our Eco Art Matters class on so many levels. So thank you. It also reminded me, and I don't know if you know the work of Robin Bernstein. Do you know her work? It's worth looking at because it is similar in that it is very beautiful and very carefully made with significant materials that are meaningful, but also when you get close to them, you realize that they are about a very dark issue. And so your work reminded me of hers, and I am very grateful to have heard your talk. So thank you so much for the good work that you do.
Thank you for those kind words. It means a lot to me. And you saw right through me. I was talking to somebody yesterday about beauty, and that my work does, I think, lure people in its prettiness, and I hope in ways that they are finding their own story, and then it becomes available to talk about really complex issues.
Right.
So I really appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Nancy?
Hi, everyone. Cynthia, that was absolutely amazing. And I love to see when an artist has such a diverse range of artistic expression. That's really impressive. I have just a question about the material making of these beautiful blouse pieces. How did you get the blouses to be sort of aerated to create a form of a torso?
Yeah, that is a question I often get asked. And when I started these works, first of all, I want to start by acknowledging or sharing that they came out of failure. I was wanting to make a cyclone. I wanted to make an installation and push my textile work towards sculpture, and I was going to make a floor to ceiling cyclone. I still want to make that, but this is like in the wake of the Me Too movement. I thought Hillary Clinton was going to be the first woman president. So I started experimenting with very small swatches of fabric, dipping them in encaustic, or I tried all kinds of glues, all kinds of things, and liked the encaustic the best because it somehow captured the memory of wear in the blouses, in the clothing. And so then I started scaling up, and it became really challenging and difficult. So I start out by hunting for these Victorian blouses and shirts, and then I wash them for like 5-6 hours, boiling them in OxyClean, because often I like the stains as sort of fingerprints of history and signs of wear. But with these blouses, a lot of times those rust marks were just how it happened to be folded. So I clean them, and then I put them in encaustic, which is beeswax and damar, and I often will use tongs, and then put them in wax, and then just almost like a pizza maker, just get air in the sleeves quickly and air in the center, and then I'm sort of letting it settle and trying to be very light-handed because I want it to be open, but I also want like who wore it last. I want that. And so then I let that cure for weeks or months, and learned the hard way that I had to somehow give them more structure. So then I actually paint them with resin on I do it outside with goggles and masks and gloves, and I paint the outside and the inside with resin. And then I will go back with a rotary saw and saw off down drips or excess resin, and then paint it with matte medium to take the shine down. So I'm conjuring ghosts and doing a lot of labor, but it is somewhat invisible. But that's kind of, I think, the magic of them.
They're wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, I have a question as a teacher artist. How have you balanced a full schedule?
It's been
Working-
really tough. It's been really, really challenging, actually. I haven't arrived. I'm still working it out. And yeah, I made a later in life career change, and as I'm astonished that they've both been on a similar trajectory. So I'm on a tenure track. So I have a lot of demands in my teaching job. And then I've had some really great opportunities to show my work. But I've changed the way that I make art in a way, because I now have a studio outside of my house, which I haven't had before. And the studio is close to where I work. I live in the East Bay, but my studio is close to Foothill College where I work. So I will teach, and then I'll go to meetings and do office hours. And then I go to my studio just really kind of consistently during the week for shorter periods of time, and then longer periods on when I have a day off and over summer. But I'm finding that because I have this space that is dedicated to making art, and I can leave things in progress, when I go in there, it's actually like, I'm amazed at how much I can get done with a smaller amount of time, because it's like a different time zone in there. And sometimes I get to my studio and I just think, I'm done. I just want to go to sleep. And then I'll just sit there, and I don't know, I'm just transformed. My brain does the switch, and then I usually start working, and I make progress on stuff.
Okay. Let's see, I'm looking. Are there any other questions? You can just put your hand up if you'd like.
And I have a question if people don't have a question. I mean,
Yeah, Shelley, go ahead.
I just say I'm really inspired. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really curious about where other, sort of I've shared a lot about my continents. If I were to think of myself as having one continent, all of these different countries would be part of that continent, even though in some ways they're not related to one another. And I'm curious if anybody else is willing to share sort of the continents, the countries that comprise their individual continents. And I also sort of, when I think about this, I also include like places that I've lived or visited that had a profound impact on me, even though it's not necessarily part of my DNA. Often I hear people say things like, well, I lived in New York for 12 years and it had a really big effect on my identity, So I'm just curious if anybody is willing to share the countries that comprise the continent that is you.
I'll share. I have family from New Zealand, so that's one of the continents or area, and Australia. I went to high school down there, and but then I lived in France for a couple of years, so that's another part of the history. Anyway, that's me.
I love that. And And one of the things I want to do with the first image that I started with, is I want to flesh that out into, it's a series of various combinations that we don't, you know, that people comprise these identities, but that they don't have direct histories that are told in a certain way. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I can share something like my family came from Pakistan. They settled in India. I was born in India. And then I got married and went to Iran, lived there for some years, and then in Kuwait for 10 years. And then we landed in Pennsylvania. And then we came to California. So it has been a journey. And what I say that I have picked up the textures and colors from all these places, and they have been merged into my personality, you can say, merged into my artwork. I can't distinguish, because I am a person, I adopt anywhere, and I flow with the place. So I cannot say separately, keep separately any segments. But for me, they're all one. That is the whole story about my work.
I love that, Salma. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, that we are whole, and that we have these different places and spaces that have added to who we have become.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I am what I am because of my journey through all these places, my experiences, and my.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Have you tried to, Cynthia, to ask your students to visually show their?
No, I have so much content to teach them. I don't teach art classes. I teach art history, and I teach lower division survey courses. So, I've got 2 to 4 hours this week to talk about Egypt, for example. So last week we talked about Mesopotamia and the Near East. And so, but what sometimes I think I did a talk at Foothill, and I was thinking about, I called it an identity collage talk, where I invited people to think about them, these various countries that comprise who they are and various histories. And I've thought about, I'm an object maker. I'm not really, I don't have a social practice, but I've thought I could do so. It would be interesting to do an activity like that, to have a workshop where people sort of collage together the maps of their identities. It'd be fascinating.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, great. Well, I think we have any other questions, then we will. Let's everybody give Cynthia a big round of applause. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beautiful presentation.